Good morning, good morning, good morning, and happy Wednesday. Happy November the 3rd. Thank you guys for checking in as people are starting to come in. This is our week's episode of Access Denied. As you see at the bottom, please share this video, this Facebook Live out to your friends, to your network, to your groups. Let us know and come on in. We got a lot to talk about today, a lot going on in the world of public education as we think about funding, as we think about school board races, as we think about our 40-day count, when we think about the district's budget. But we also want to talk about just last Wednesday, a parent meeting, a meeting that we were in partnership with to talk specifically about student funding. There were a lot of people at the table, but definitely the parents of Propel had a point of view. And we'll get into that. But we also want to hear about parent-teacher conferences that happened at your school and around the district last Friday, just to talk about progress where your child is in the MTSS or the RTI, or just updates that the school wanted to give you.
Or FBI or TBI.
All the acronyms.
All that stuff. John, you just brought the energy in here, and thank you guys for joining us. Access Denied was created for parents, by parents, so that we can talk about the stuff that parents care the most about. It's unfiltered, uncensored. It is raw, and it is the truth. And John, you done got me all lit up and on fire over here.
It's a lot going on. I'll tell you, just a year ago, some things change, and it's the fall weather. We're just leaving TSU homecoming. The Titans are coming off a great win, and just in public education, we're looking to see what's going on. What can we do as parents? How do we make sure our kids get everything not only that they deserve, but that they need to survive here in this world? So I'm pumped. I see we got Rhea, we got Kavan, who's a teacher, we got Danielle, we got Joyce. Thank you guys for jumping in. We got Scott on here, cohort 10. We got Joyce, cohort 4, Rhea, cohort 3. Come on in.
Come on in here, y'all. Come on. Oh, you mentioned Derrick Henry, and I just got sad. I'm an Alabama fan. He done hurt him pinky toe. And so that Derrick, if you hear me, if you listening, I'm gonna cook you some dinner stuff, some such as
Come on now. Get him back on the field.
I'm gonna get you back on the field. Yes, I am.
I see we got Miss Keisha Marshall on. We got Miss Moppin, who's been ride or die. We got Miss Kimberly Smith, who came out to the trunk or treat. Like we had quite the week last week. It was a lot going on. I had to eat my Wheaties, my Farina. Like, I had to take my vitamins. I stole a Flintstone vitamin from my son. Like, I had to get it in.
No, you didn't go get the Farina out of the public bar.
No, the Farina.
You didn't come get
it gave you all the nourishment. They put all the nourishment in the Farina.
Yes, I love me some Farina. Child, we grew up with that out north, and that can and that meat in that silver can. Y'all
come on now.
Put some gravy and onions on that darn stuff and barbecue sauce.
Or the peanut butter with the oil at the top because it unsettled. It was enriched.
Oh man, that's why we were strong.
Everybody don't know about that though. Everybody don't know about that. How you doing, Kate Carter Lou?
Yeah, man. Like last week. Now that you say it, now I understand why I feel so tired. Right, because even today, and this gloom, I'm gonna tell you, I gotta be transparent. The gloominess outside, it affects my mood, and I struggle this time of year. I need to get me a blue light. So if there's anybody else that's listening, get you a blue light. And a blue light will kind of give you some of those UV rays that you need to help to build your energy. So I need to get me another blue light, but I can feel that we were really busy, but like a good busy, right? Like
good busy.
These are good things to be involved in. And our parents, you showed up strong and mighty, and it does not go unappreciated, and it does not go unrecognized. We are building a movement of parents, John, that is going recognized across this country.
Yeah.
And I don't think y'all really understand.
It has been, I know we got a thing where we're going to highlight all the things that we have gone through this year, but, the month of October just really invigorated. We had a beautiful Sunday. It was a rainy Saturday. It was a beautiful Wednesday. We had our fellowship on Thursday. Like, it was just the things of talking to parents about the issues and then having parents show up and not only sit at the table, but demand attention and responsibility. And, we just walked away from a lot of those events fired up. One, Sunday I might have been hyped up on all the candy I was eating. But again,
the teachers. I saw some meme about the shout out to the teachers that had the kids the day after Halloween.
Come on now. It wasn't easy. But you watched, I think, going back to our trunk or treat that we had in McFerrin, it was awesome to see parents bringing the best that they had, dressed up in their costumes. They had been thoughtful about the costumes. The kids were excited. And it was just a lot of love. And you just watch these kids as you give them candy, like, this is our future. Like, this is Halloween and it's fun. But to see these little kids and be so mannerable and welcoming, like, that just put it on my mind. Like, that's what we do. That's who we fight for.
It's a danger in a single story.
Yeah.
People say that our kids are black, and yeah, they are. We all black. We born black. We can do about that. They're poor. They can't learn. Even in that meeting last week, Emily Masters, I'm gonna call her ass about this, said we needed more funding for the kids that are hard to teach. Who you talking about? I know who she was talking about. She's talking about black children.
Yeah.
We're not hard to teach. It's just the system is set up where it's incapable of teaching us.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna call her about that, Emily.
Yeah. I had a good conversation with a principal last week, and it was really about, this is what I can appreciate about people. When they know it's a problem and they admit it's a problem. I think the anger would be when something is not right with your kid and they be like, oh, like, they're such a joy, like, we love them, they're such a pleasure, and not really admit that we have a problem. We talked about third grade, right? And what I was about to say, when we get to eighth grade, and she beat me to it. She said it doesn't get better. She was like, it actually gets worse. And I was like, you took the words right out of my mouth. It
manifests itself, right? It was already bad. What it does, it just manifests itself. I think what we do is we have some things in place where it is more noticed in eighth grade. And because it's happening all the way along, right? But when you don't have things in place where you're monitoring, and it's not and test score, we need the test score, but there's some other things in there, like we're ignoring something. We're ignoring the test scores. We're ignoring the fact that we do need to make these changes. And then we get to eighth grade, it's like, happy birthday.
And those kids walk into high school like confused and don't really know what direction, and it hurts the kids. And I think that's why we do this work. Like, a whole generation of kids, when we fail a whole generation of kids, we actually set ourselves back because it's no growth. When you think about Bordeaux, right? Bordeaux used to be like the black Beverly Hills, and they went through some things over the years. But one thing that you notice about Bordeaux, they lost Lillard, they lost a couple schools in Jolton, but the education, and when we look at the scores, it's those kids are not getting what they deserve. And you can't manage a household not even understanding how to read. And it's a generational thing that we're seeing hit us full front right now.
Yeah. And it's sad. I once said that I lose sleep, and I mean that. And when I say that things keep me awake at night, my good friend Visha called me this morning. It was funny. She's like, "You was up at 5:30," but Visha knows that I'm up at 2 and 3, 4, 5, and because the mind is not able to rest, because I see what's going on with these kids, and it's just so criminal.
Yeah.
It's so criminal.
It's criminal. And one thing that I want to get in and talk about, just first and foremost, like, we want to look at this student funding formula. And so one of the articles that we'll glance through pretty quickly it's a Chalkbeat article, Sonia, but it really talks about the history And during our fellowship on this show, we talk a lot about funding. We talk about our budget being $1.1 billion. We talk about the number of students, but we also, what they're discussing with student formula funding is like, how does it make it to the student, and how is there real accountability? And it's a conversation that's happened in Middle Tennessee, which it was in Sumner County, which we'll talk about. It happened in Memphis. And then it's going to 6 other places where they're going to talk across the state about it. But National Propel and the parents of Propel had some comments that we'll go over. But first, I'm going to switch it up a little bit. Like I want to show the video that kind of gives a little bit of the history that parents can really understand before we jump into the actual conversation. So I'm going to tee that up right now. Make sure, okay, cut that. All right, let me cut that video.
Have you ever found yourself
before we go into? And so, Sonia, as we come back, just as you could talk about your experience at the Tennessee, and we'll pull up the article in a short view. But what was the point of view you wanted to go in as they looked, as we talked about the 3 things: parent surveys, public meetings, and then subgroups? Like, what are some of the things that you talked about when you were at the meeting?
Number one, that parents need to be deeply involved in the conversation now and in the future and in the final decision. And that this is not about funding jobs. This is about children's real life. This is about our babies, and every dollar, every cent. If we're saying that we're funding education, then we need to make sure that we are ensuring that every dollar touches every child in a classroom. And then we need to make sure that there's a vision for this, right? That vision is looked at and including all of those things, and that we are able to take that vision and make sure that we have outcomes that are going to be best for all children.
Yeah. I think what I can remember, there were a lot of points. I think everybody agreed that we had a problem, but I think there are a lot of difference of opinions. I think as parents, as we showed up as parents from Black, brown, and poor communities, it was just that, when we think about budgets and we think about 1.1 billion, and we think about pre-pandemic with reading levels being at 13 and 14%, like, to us, how much money will it take to get it to 80%? And I think we want to take what we got now and make it better, because we just don't see the money actually coming down to the classrooms and benefiting our kids. When we talk about high dosage tutoring, right? Awesome idea. Have not seen the implementation, right? And I know with the high dosage tutoring, that's something that we're asking people to do for free. And you always know the old saying is, you get what you pay for. Parents are excited, stakeholders are excited, but when you don't invest in what you really need, you get what you're gonna get. And then we think about, like, personalized learning time. At some schools, I've heard the school just talk about it deeply, right? Like, they talked about tier 2 and tier 3 and MTSS, multi-tier support systems, or RTI, to intervention. What is the R for
response?
response to intervention. And then I've just heard some schools just essentially throw their hands up because they have no earthly plan. And those are the schools that we're saying it has to be accountability. It's nothing like having $1 billion budget and each year a child never learns to read. And so I think
But nothing's changed.
Right.
So when they talk about these programs that they have, if you read the programs, nothing is different from pre-pandemic. But only thing is different, they got blank checks and they've gotten ESSER funds to only do the same things, Dr. Battle. And that is group interventions that don't work. They've already proven not to work and increase literacy rates and proficiency and achievement. Can't hear you, John.
Sorry about that. I'll pull this up and just talk a little through it. I'll read a couple of the headlines, especially highlights what was going on in Sumner County. But it says investing more dollars in their education, providing options for parents other than traditional public schools, and in funding more support staff like school counselors emerged as top concerns for the state's overhaul of its education funding model during a town hall, and that was last Wednesday night. The public town hall at Merrill Hyde in Sumner County was the first of 8. About 150 people attended, including representatives from Metro Nashville and Rutherford County school boards, retired educators, and members of the parent advocacy group Nashville Propel. And then you look, and as you can see, sign is highlighted. As she said, it looked like she was singing. But one of the quotes it says from Dr. Swin, "What I've heard across the board is that everyone wanted what's best for kids. That is a shared Tennessee value, and what that means and what it's going to look like is part of the developmental process. But we all want the same thing, and that is to serve children as best as we possibly can." I'm surprised by how much commonality I heard. And so I'll end it right there.
Yeah, and another common theme was that what we are doing is not working, and parents want to make sure that whatever we do, we have the choice to do it, and that we do what's best for kids. And I think, that was not mentioned, although the commonality was that parents wanted to choose and be able to make those informed decisions for their children. And nobody wants to talk about that, right? That is politicized, and what we want is our children to live. And we don't care about political parties. We are a nonpartisan group. Politics have never benefited us as a people, and so why would we have faith in politics now?
Yeah, the formula for insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and thinking that things are going to change. And when we think about, and I want to have this conversation with parents, so feel free to jump in. I see Anna says she's on the student with disability subgroup. She's mad as hell about what's happening with our children around reading and disability and want to fight. I love to keep learning from your parents. And I think that's the partnership. I think what we can say in my age, of gone through metro schools, just came back from my 20-year class reunion, and we had a good amount of people at the reunion. We had fun, right? But one thing that was very noticeable, there were a lot of people who were missing, and missing because they started with us as freshmen, but didn't finish with us as seniors.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was my headline. Like, man, like my friends that I went to elementary school with, middle school with, and started high school, everybody didn't cross that finish line. And a lot of us, 90% of us, all have kids.
And you graduated in 2000 and I graduated in 1994, and it was the same thing. To be sitting in wherever we graduated from, I can't even remember the facility, and to look around and not see some of the people that I had gone to school with in 4 years, not walk with me, and nothing has changed.
Yep. And that was when everybody went to the neighborhood school, unless you went to, the advanced school. And so you literally came up with these people until it got real, and no one was willing to make that sacrifice to make sure more kids made it across the finish line, and it's where we are right now.
Yeah,
And
and
Kendall Moffitt says our special ed kids
are put on the back of the burner, like they can't contribute to our community. And shout out to our special ed kids. I consider myself a special ed kid because I do have a disability that was not diagnosed in school. And so I am a living witness.
Yeah.
I'm a living witness. I am a receipt, Kendall. That doesn't matter about your disability. And so we call those superheroes and superpowers. And you're right, they are not getting what they need, the accommodations that they need so that they can reach their greatest potential.
Mm-hmm.
And we fight alongside you and for those children.
Yeah, it's the work that we got to do. But I think what I can go back as we go back to that community meeting, what I can appreciate is the Propel parents were in there. You know, traveling from Nashville, 65 north in the afternoon, early evening, is not a joke. And so, you know, we were worried. We were like, man, like the traffic, the location, the distance, like it's going to be a hindrance. But I tell you, before that meeting started, you watch parents come on in with their shirts on. You watch them not only come into the meeting, but you watch them proudly sit up front because they had a story to tell. And some people wanted to listen to what this really meant because what we always say, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
And it's so funny, John, as I reflect over the 4 years we've been building this movement, it's almost 4 years now. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
I can remember a time when parents were afraid to sit in the front of a room. I can recall actual meetings where I'm like, come on and come to the front of the room. And now through building our fellowship and developing them, like they understand it's just a given. Like they understand that they are powerful and that they belong in those rooms. They belong at the table, and those decisions are decisions that they should be a part of. And I mean, it's just wonderful to see, man.
Yeah. And thank you, Danielle, for chiming in. Danielle has been the rock behind the scenes. And so this is what it's all about. And I think I really encourage parents, and we'll put some more information on our page, but to stay on top of this, because student funding is always the conversation, but student outcomes tied to the money is never it. And I think anybody who works or know somebody who works is, you know, our paychecks are tied to performance. That makes the world go round. And we also realize at the DMV, which has no competition, it's always some of the worst service that we have all experienced. And so we want to make sure we stay on top of that.
And at the light company, some of the highest ass bill you've ever seen. You like, I know I ain't had that many lights on. Bill be $7,000.
I've been using my space heater. Like, we just gonna stay in this one room because I know NES looking to get me. Like, they like, hey, you about to get this big bill.
You might just turn it on because y'all gonna get it anyway.
Yeah, come on now.
I mean, what you gonna do about it?
I know. It ain't nowhere to go. I can protest if I want to. I'm gonna be protesting with candles.
Right.
It's gonna be an electrical vigil.
Turn that heat on my baby. They gonna charge y'all $4,780 next month anyway. It don't even matter.
Come on now.
Let's just do it. GoFundMe.
Come on now. But as we think about that, as we think about the budget, as we think about GoFundMes, you know, this past Friday across the district, you know, it was the pep rally. I had heard that a lot of teachers call out on Friday anyway, because they spending time catching back up with friends. But this past Friday, school was out. I had a parent that I was talking to doing a one-on-one. They were so busy, they couldn't even get her in on Friday. They had to move her to Monday. So I need to follow up with her to see how that went. But we want to hear from parents, like, how did parent-teacher conferences go? Like, what are some of the things that you guys talked about? What did you want to be true for your kids? What are some of the responses that you heard from the school? And then what do you think the next steps are? So we just really want to hear, how did the meetings go? Because that that was a big thing across the whole district. It was parent-teacher conferences, and it gave parents an opportunity to sit at the table.
Well, for Republic, they did not do parent-teacher conferences for children that had 3.0 and above. And, my son fell in that category, but I did receive a phone call on a Sunday, from his advisor that went over his report card and went over, asking me if I had any concerns. And also, I was able to voice the fact that my son doesn't have a computer science teacher and has not had one all year. And so that's a huge issue, especially for a school that is a computer science hub and prides themselves on being a computer science expert school. So that's a big problem. So if there's any other parents out there who have children at Republic who don't have a computer science teacher, if you could please inbox us. I sent an email at 2:30 this morning asking the principal to schedule a town hall meeting to let us know when they're going to hire a teacher. So if you want to join in, this, let me know.
Yep. And I think that's the accountability part. I think when kids miss real teachers in the classroom, I mean, all the evidence, all the time shows kids fall behind, and we don't got time for that.
Nope. And if you are in any school and you don't have a teacher for your classroom, then please inbox us and let us know. Because we do know that this is a system problem. And if they're not going to have teachers in the classroom, then something else got to change. Why are they even there?
Yes. And I see Sherry Lucas says, taking a quick study break. This space is worth their break. And thank you for jumping in on Sherry. I know Sherry is around the Georgia area. We had one of our cousins who's been a friend, ran for school board, ran for re-election, Loretta Baldwin. I think she's going into a runoff. And so just shouts out to parents who take that extra step to run and make policy change, to be, to see it from the outside, but also see it from the inside. Like, as we have parents at Propel, I hope you guys over this past year, as you said in school board meetings, if you have met with the superintendent, spoke at the meeting, led rallies outside the school board meeting, like that seat at the table is important. And it's important to take it at times, but they never want to give it to you.
Yeah.
And so I thought I had some pictures to really highlight. But again, as you guys think about parent-teacher conferences, like, let us know how it go. I know our good friend out there who has a kid at DuPont, Candace, was going into a couple of meetings and she was letting us know. Would love to hear from you, Candace. I know, Kendall, you have been working inside and outside to make sure that your child has the best education. But let us know, like, those are things that keep us real tight. I know our organizers have been talking to a lot of parents just around, not just the parent-teacher conferences, but a lot of the culture that's going around as it starts to get cold. There's some spikes that are coming up, but your feedback really helps drive not only our ambition, but the direction on the things that we look to support from you guys.
Yeah, and a parent just inboxed me. I got your inbox saying that Antioch is having the same issue with the lack of teachers in the classroom. And so school leaders, y'all need to get y'all shit together. I don't know what y'all gonna do about making sure that there are teachers in front of these children, but you got to do something quickly, and you got to come up with a plan. And we need to talk about this. And not only we need to talk about this, we need to demand that they're just put in these classrooms. So I don't know what they need to do, but they need to do it.
I think it's like car with no gasoline, right? Like, you can have the Maserati. The Maserati looks good. The leather is tight. It smells good. It'll never go anywhere without gasoline. As we think about teachers, without teachers, how can you teach? Like, sure, you can put me or you in a classroom singing. I think we can manage it, but we ain't teaching to the best of our ability. And so I think that's something that has to keep leaders, principals, administrators up at night. Like, you have to make sure your car has the gas. If you got the Maserati, like let's get the gas and make sure you are having like conversations where something's about to happen. If you're about to lose a teacher, like you have plans in place to make sure learning is not disrupted.
Yeah,
and I think Miss Smith,
Miss Kimberly's comment is very concerning. She said her son has struggled since the pandemic, since the beginning of the pandemic, and he's still struggling. The teachers are, they basically spoke about his problems but did not mention the solutions. And she asked for tutoring, and they said that it's only for certain children. So I'm getting ready to ask Metro Schools what the hell they're gonna do. I'm gonna let them know they got all this money. Got all this money.
My son is overwhelmed with the amount.
What school is this,
do the work, but he is overwhelmed.
What school is this, Kimberly?
And no, your comment is not too long. I mean, these are the comments that we want to hear.
Yeah, I'm tweeting.
Yep, and then Sharon says no gasoline. Okay.
Yeah, I'm tweeting at Metro Schools. I might need to tweet CNN,
Yep.
CNN, BET, who else? Fox News, News Channel 5, Channel 4, Channel 2, 17. Somebody need to help this mama.
Yeah.
What school
and
is
then the one-on-one I had last week.
Whitehead Middle School. Really? John, your internet doing something funny, or mine?
What about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's jumping around. It might be mine too.
Okay, it might be mine. Okay, Miss Moffin says she's proud of her. It says, okay, yeah, that's mine. Yeah, we all know the internet is undefeated, but Ms. Moffin says, I'm proud of my daughter. She advocated for herself yesterday when they stuck her in iReady and no personal learning. She walked out of class when the principal was worried about the phone, not her education. She told her to worry about her why and not her phone. The iReady, as you guys know, like the program that coincides with Metro, but they also are supposed to be having PLT, personal learning time, with the students. And I think knowledge is power. And it seems like Ms. Moffin's daughter knows about the knowledge, and she's flexing her power.
This is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. And this is good. And share this out and let us know other parents who may be experiencing. Ms. Smith, thank you for letting us know. Like I said, the parent I spoke to last week was at the same school and experiencing some issues where they didn't even want to meet with her, but she had concerns about not where her student is, where they think he's good, but she has higher expectations.
What's the federal education secretary? Is it Miguel Cardona? Which one is it? What's his name?
Yeah, Cardona. Yeah, Miguel Cardona.
Yeah, I'm tweeting everybody.
Miguel.
Everybody. Penny, Miguel, Joe Biden. Hell, who else? This don't make no sense. At POTUS, at Megan, at Tennessee, at Channel 5. Sick of these. Sick of this. It's at Chalk Beat. Somebody need to listen to these parents. Ain't nobody listening. At Republic. Yeah, y'all too. Let me add y'all on here too. Y'all ain't got no computer science teacher.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the POTUS talked about Middle Tennessee a month ago, remember? He named us directly when they were talking about the mask stuff. And so, although that's important, like we dealing with kids who are falling beneath the cracks.
At Governor Bill Lee, who else? Mm-hmm. Head middle school.
And Sherry says, yes, Sonya, at this point, too many students are just sitting in rooms of failure. Kendall says, my daughter is tired of only being taught before IEPs and map testing, and is back to the same BS. Accountability.
Sad. It is.
Says she retweeting. Who else with me?
Amen. I'm getting this tweet together. You know, when you mad tweet, you might leave out words. I'm proofreading because I might accidentally put a word in there.
Yep. The focus is real. And as Sonya's drafting it up, one of the things to highlight as we move forward, as we think about voter registration, you know, this time next year, a lot of people will be on the ballot for Congress, for U.S. Senate, and for some other federal and state elections. And if I know anything about Nashville, if you know anything about Nashville, or you've been here 10 years, a lot of people have moved from where they currently were, but a lot of people have moved in. At one point, they said 100 people a day were moving into Nashville. But what I also know, the people who were here were also moving from Eastville to Madison, Antioch to Old Hickory. And so a link that I'm in, if you have moved from your address, I always talk about not wanting to get purged. You know, the Purge movie, you know what purging means, taking people out. But purging in the state of Tennessee around elections means they take you off the voter rolls, where you don't have the ability to vote anymore if they see you haven't voted in the last 2 elections. And so one of the links that I'm gonna post is to our page. It helps you register to vote. It helps you do your change your address if you need it. But we want to make sure all of our people who live here are rightly registered to vote. If you have changed your address, please fill it out. If you have moved to Nashville, or you know family members that have moved, send them this link. But Sonya, go back. What were you tweeting out?
What I said was, at Metro schools, all this ESSA funds, and you have students struggling, and you are turning down tutoring for children at head middle, and you don't have teachers in most of the schools. Short, straight to the point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then Rhea says, yep, call them all out.
Look, there you go. Look, there you go. Get on Twitter.
This is
When are people gonna listen to us? That's why we continue to organize.
I think we got. Yep.
Most definitely, John. Your internet, the internet. It must have COVID-19. We got to blame everything on COVID-19 because that's the going
like they do around our.
Yeah, just blame everything on COVID-19. We blame everything on COVID-19. COVID-19 did it. Who dropped that paper towel? COVID-19 did it. Telling y'all, boy. I can't wait to hear the excuse for next year. There you go. Y'all hear it. Keep tweeting. Tweet. Keep tweeting. Tweet till they get to the White House.
Yep.
Tweet till they get to the White House.
Let it go viral.
Yeah, let's go.
Danielle says she out here tweeting.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like walking we had a chance to knock on doors in the McFerrin community, which is the Sam Levy, which is the old Lycian Meridian. And what you know about those parents wanted the best. They're working, they're sending their kids to school. But when you look at the schools surrounding them, like those schools are not preparing our kids. I think Sonia said it at the meeting. When we talk about priority schools or bottom 5% schools academically, in that McFerrin and Sam Levy and Old Lishie community, they have bottom 5% on the elementary level, like Tom Joy. They got it on the middle school level at like Haynes, and then they got it on the high school level when you think about White Creek or Maplewood. And you have to say, like, what? It got to be better than this. It got to be better than this for our kids.
Keep tweeting. Keep tweeting. Keep tweeting. Tweet, tweet, tweet. Tweet, tweet, tweet. You ain't got no Twitter. Oh, there go another one. Tweet, tweet, tweet. Tweet till we get to Washington, D.C.
Yep.
But John, you're right. It's got to be better than this. I wondered the slaves say that. Like, I don't mean to go there, but it's true. Like, it's got to be better than this, right?
It's got to be better. Yeah, and if they not, I mean, waiting is tired. I know we talked about some things when we think about Republicans and we think about Democrats and what it means for us. And, in my opinion, I know how I vote, right? But I also know things that have just been ignored around the people I even support. Political parties to me mean nothing if you don't benefit from it. People always ask, well, what have you done for me lately? And, I think when we think about the Democratic Party, there have just been some great things that have happened when we think about voter rights, when we think about, some of this desegregation around education. And I think that helped us a lot know where our allies were, right, for our grandparents. But when I think about my kids and I think about the state of Black America, we just got to ask the tough questions. And I don't think anybody should be running away from asking those tough questions around what have you done for me lately? Because in any place at any time, the people who are at the table are getting what they want. When I think about Bellevue, they lost a high school during desegregation and they got it back now. Why? Because they were at the table. And so for us, and they were holding people accountable. They supported a mayoral candidate against the incumbent mayor. They had their parents show up to the school board meeting or send all these emails. And I think it's only right because parents are at the table with Propel. They're coming to, school board meetings. They're coming to meetings all the way out in Sumner County. But I still ask, if we do the same thing, what are we getting? And just to talk about money, but not outcomes, that ain't what we need at all.
Yeah, those are privileged conversations.
You're right.
I just want to just encourage our parents, don't you get tired. You cannot afford to get tired. Yeah. Don't you dare. Don't you dare get tired. Don't you keep building this movement. You keep building this movement. Don't you get tired. Don't you stop. Don't you stop fighting. We can't afford to. Some folk, just can't afford to stop fighting. So we cannot stop building this movement. That's what we're going to do. We're going to keep building this movement. We're going to keep building power. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do.
So, yeah. Thank you guys. And please retweet, but reach out. We still want to know how parent teacher conference is going. It was good to hear from Ms. Mop and Ms. Smith and some of the other parents. I think that gives us the focus on what do we need to be focused on, because it's happening in real time. It's not something we reading, it's something we're hearing directly from the source. And so I know we talked about a couple of schools and saying you got your school, but that's what we own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't understand it. And you're right. As we're talking about per pupil funding and all of this stuff. Like that stuff need to be taken into account when you don't have a classroom teacher sitting in front of your child. Like, should nobody be getting no money for that?
Right.
If anything, them teachers, and bless the heart of the teachers that are having to sub in their own damn school.
Right. Right.
I'm talking about they got to teach their class and then go sub somebody else's class. Bless their heart.
Yeah. So last year during COVID, our budget was, I want to say it was like 927, maybe 57. And a lot of things due to COVID, we didn't cut on a lot of lights, we didn't use a lot of gas. And we never, what I was going to imagine, and this is something I'm going to ask about, like how much money was left over and what do we do with it? And is that accounted for the budget that we have this year? When we talk about more money, I think it opens up the door for accountability to say, what are we doing with the monies that we're having? And I think it's good for parents to not only know the budget, but to see where the money goes. And we know a big portion of it goes to teachers, maybe 35, 40%. But when we think about the rest of it, right, like more understanding and more knowledge helps parents understand how the system works and become partners, and not just on the outside looking in.
Yeah, and I'm and jump on this tweet. I'm asking Metro Schools to provide us with a daily report of how many teachers that they're missing each day, or we're gonna come and find out. And I mean that. So when we start showing up to see who's in those buildings and who are not, then you be trying to call the police. Call them. We're gonna have y'all arrested for having for having children not being monitored. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna file charges against y'all.
Come on now. Oh, thank you. And Ms. Moffin is on fire. And Sasha says, yes, ma'am. Sasha's been like riding the dime with us too. I saw her on Wednesday. Then she was ready Saturday. And then I saw her on Sunday. Like y'all have really helped us keep the fire going. We're going to close out this year in a big way. We have had a big year, so be looking for end of November, early December, like our closeout access denied, where even Sonya, we may bring back on former guests just to check in with them as we thought about, access denied from, January to December and all the new friends we have made, all the fellowship parents that have come through who have been on the show and been with us, at the school board meeting in the community. So we got a lot of work to do. And as you know, we can't do this work alone. We cannot do this work alone.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. Reach out to us and we will see you next Wednesday.
Tweet.
Tweet. Like the artist.
Tweet. Yep. We need to tweet.